Mark,
Hi, man.
can you bring us up to the injury situation?
Well, we lost 2 from the game at the weekend. Stephen Sidwell has been scanned on his knee. It's slightly better news, I would suggest. It was an injury of his knee, which we thought would be likely to be 6 to 8 weeks. We've had slightly better news. It's not as severe as a tear in his knee ligament, so having seen the scan, the medical people are telling me he's likely to be out for 4 to 6. So it's a blow to us, obviously, going into the Christmas period with the amount of games we've got, but the fact it's better news we're encouraged by. Glenn Whelan has been checked over. It's not a pull, which is further good news. He's obviously not available tomorrow. His problem's more to do with the covering of the muscle, which was tightening up on him, and he couldn't continue at the weekend. So we're hopeful that if he's not available tomorrow night or even at the weekend, then certainly he's available for the game after that. But we'll see how he progresses this week. Phil Barsley, we sent on because he wasn't right in terms of the injury, the illness rather, that was going around the club, and he's arguably been affected by in more ways than anybody else. If that's the wrong phrase, but you know what I mean. But he's on the mend. He trained today, so he obviously a little bit weak because he's about 3 or 4 days of sickness. But the feeling is that he'll be okay.
So he's okay for Tuesday night?
Yeah.
Has everything been sorted out down at the training ground as far as the sickness?
Yeah, we cleared people out last week. For the most part, I think that enabled us to keep it away from the majority of the senior squad. A few went down with it, obviously, but I think if we hadn't done what we did do at the club, then we might have been affected more greatly than we actually were in the end. So we're hopeful that the club's over it, and we're not. There isn't the likelihood that it's going to reappear. Obviously, we may well get other viruses, as you do in football clubs, but hopefully we're over this one.
You mentioned the busy period that you've got coming up. It must be difficult for you in terms of the number of injuries that you've got going around at the club at the moment as well.
Well, it coincided with obviously a little bit of illness breaking out as well, which we could have done without, given the fact we just seem to have picked up injuries at the same time. But they're not ones really you can avoid. Most of them recurring in matches, and it's difficult to really legislate for them. You do everything correctly and you can still pick up injuries like Stephen Sidwell's injury. That's just a consequence of playing a high impact game on occasion. So there's not a great deal we can do about it. It's just a phase we're going through, and we've just got to try and make the best of it. I've still got good players that can come in, players that are arguably a little bit frustrated because they haven't had game time, so obviously we're missing few, so they come into my thinking, because obviously bodies are down at the moment.
And in that sense then hopefully you can start picking up some results as well.
Well, yeah, I mean we've had back-to-back defeats, but in terms of performances, I've been pleased enough. We made a couple of mistakes against Burnley, we got punished for them. Couldn't turn it around, but actually the performance on the day was fine. At Liverpool at the weekend arguably is one of our better performances in recent years in terms of what we produced on the day. I think statistically, if you look at all aspects of the game, we were the more dominant team in terms of possession, passes made, fitness wise. We ran harder, faster and longer than Liverpool. The only stat that we didn't produce, unfortunately, was the main one, which was the 1-0 defeat that we had to take on the chin. But in terms of performance, it was a good performance. Once again, we've gone to one of the more difficult places in the Premier League to get a positive performance and positive result, and we've acquitted ourselves really well. We've gone to City, we've gone to Tottenham, and Anfield at the weekend. We've got to go to Old Trafford. So in terms of confidence going into a game at Old Trafford, it won't affect us. There will be no apprehension because we've proved this year that we can give a good account of ourselves irrespective of who we're playing.
Louis van Gaal was saying the other day that he thinks that their performance at the weekend was the best that they've had under him so far. What do you make of how things are?
Yeah, quite possibly. I think certainly they seem to have run in a little bit of form, unfortunately, from our point of view. Maybe if we'd faced them earlier, it would have been easier. But they've had a run, I think it's three wins on the trot now, so they seem to be getting to grips with what the new manager seems to want them to do and how he wants them to play. They've been affected by injuries as well, but obviously they've got a huge amount of player resource that they can call upon, and they've been able to cope, and they've had good performances of late. We'll have to play very well. We accept that, but I think it's a good matchup. I think they're coming into a bit of form. I think our general form is good, and you need confidence going to places like Old Trafford to be able to compete against them.
Given the manager's pedigree that he's had, obviously, both at national and club level, and the sort of players that they've got there, do you expect that he will be the sort of man that will get things right at Old Trafford and will be a good fit for them? Yeah.
I mean, it goes without saying. It's a huge club. He seems to have the personality to deal with everything that dealing with a club such as Manchester United throws at a manager. He's been at top clubs right across Europe, so he understands what's required and what he faces. He's got good resources. It seems to be that the club is prepared now to invest in the team, so he'll have the benefit of that as well. So he can go out and shape the team in his own image. So you don't suspect he'll have too many problems in terms of getting a successful side there. It's more difficult now, I think, because there's more teams that can compete and will ask questions of them, and I think that goes right across the board. I think the amount of quality in the Premier League now is a challenge for everybody, and that includes the top teams, because they seem to lose more games than they used to in recent years. So, and I think that's because of the amount that's been invested right across the board, not just at the top level. Okay.
We haven't scored any goals from set pieces, as I'm sure you're aware.
Apparently not, no.
Obviously you know that.
Not for the want of trying, I assure you.
I can understand that. It would be great to get a goal from a set piece, but does it bother you that people are still talking about Stoke being a team that only scores goals from set pieces?
Well, it's a perception maybe that's still there. I think of all the goals we scored, I think vast majority is from open play, and that wasn't the case maybe in times gone by, but really it's about results, and not particularly the elements of how you get the results, how you score. Doesn't really impact me too greatly. It's not something that I look too closely at. What I want to see is positive results rather than obviously the way that we score goals. We've been very close. We work certainly on trying to get first contacts in the box. That's a big thing that I've always been very, very adamant about, that if more often than not, if you get the first contact in an opponent's box from a set play, something happens. It might not always be a goal, but something, you might get another free kick, you might get penalties, but something definitely happens when you get that first contact. So we work on that, and for the most part we've been okay in that respect. The fact that we haven't been able to get on the end of things and actually score goals is just something that we feel will change, because we're doing the right things. We're trying to get the ball in the right areas. And we're trying to get first contacts, and if you keep doing that, then at some point you'll start scoring goals from set plays.
And you're going back to Old Trafford, obviously you had a great time there as a player. Do you get a little bit more fired up, if it's possible for you to get more fired up when you go back to your old club?
Well, I've been back a few times now. It's a club that I was part of for a long time, from being a schoolboy until I finally left when I was 31 years of age, so it was a big part of my footballing life. So I enjoyed going back. There's still people there that I knew from my time, but it was a long time ago when I left, something like 95, I think, when I left as a player. So a lot of water's gone under the bridge, but I had good times there, and there's good people there that I still know. So it's always enjoyable to go back there. But from my point of view as manager of Stoke City, I want to go there and get a positive result. I've been able to do it in the past. I've taken teams there and got positive results, so that's what we're looking to do again.
Mark, for the injuries that are occurring, is that having any effect on your thinking going into the next transfer window?
Not really. I mean, it's obviously if it continues, then we're going to have to make sure that we're not exposed and we don't leave ourselves too open and not have that strength in depth that I've been pleased with, to be perfectly honest. The fact that we have got good players to come in, it's helped us during this period. We don't want it to continue, obviously. We want it to resolve itself and hopefully, given time, that's what will happen and we'll be able to welcome players back. It's part and parcel of a hard Premier League campaign. You have to understand at some point you lose players either through suspension, injuries or other circumstances. So you've got to be strong enough to cope. At the moment, thankfully we are because we have that strength in depth, and that's what we prepared for at the beginning of the season. But if in January we've lost any, touch wood we don't, to long-term injuries, then we'll look at it. But at the moment we're okay. I think if the right player became available and we felt we could go in the market, then we try and do that, and I'm sure there would be resources available. But I think where we stand at the moment, the likelihood of spending a significant amount in the window is unlikely, because we'd probably only go in if we were stretched, as I just alluded to. I don't think there's any intention to go into the market and spend a lot of money in January. We'll keep our powder dry for the summer probably.
Okay, thank you. Radio,
okay.
Please.